The Fudd has played an important role in idiocy, an existence which has been ridiculed and denounced, served misery and annoyance alike, and carries with it gross moral hypocrisy. To understand the Fudd is to better understand idiocy.
Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of Tales of the Fudd. I am Mike B, and today we've got a really cool story that kind of takes us off the beaten path of just observing normal, expected Fuddy behavior, and also takes a little bit of an interesting twist, which is a very valuable learning lesson. So before we get into that, really quick, I just kind of want to do the definition part of the video. I know I said I was going to do this in the first video, but I figure people will be jumping in the future on the later episodes. It might not be on the same page as far as the definition of what a FUD is. It might, not quite get the context. So I'm going to clear that up really quick. It's agreed upon definition is going to be a combination of like Urban Dictionary's definitions, a couple of those. I pulled some from a couple different definitions, and I'm going to add some things in there that I would personally consider a FUD, and we'll go from there. So it's a slang term for a casual gun owner, like pretty much somebody that owns guns for hunting or shotgun sports, and doesn't actually believe in or support the true premise of the Second Amendment. These people also generally treat owners and users of these non-sporting firearms, or whatever they call them, like semi-automatic handguns and rifles and stuff, with unwarranted scorn and contempt. From the second definition on Urban Dictionary, I pulled part of it, which explains the name, why it's called FUD. It refers to the cartoon character Elmer Fudd from Looney Tunes. If you don't know who that is, I feel genuinely sorry for you. Please use Google and understand that. My childhood was awesome because I got to experience Elmer Fudd on TV regularly. Anyway, so like Elmer Fudd, the character in that show, a lot of these people are really slow and dumb and just happily clueless. Like they're okay with not having any clue. I will also add to this and supplement that with some of my personal thoughts, and I would define it, and I broaden the horizon to include people who don't know really anything about firearms in general, but claim to. And you can tell this because they'll regurgitate really like debunked myths over and over again, just like they're fat because they don't really fact, not fat. That sounded like I said fat. Well, that happens a lot too in this case, but we won't, start body shaming here. But anyway, so they'll just regurgitate stuff, and it's like, okay, here we go. Like, you don't know what you're talking about, but you're going to claim to, and this is going to be real fun. Stuff like that. And all the while they're doing this, they, support legislation or don't oppose legislation that threatens to ban and restrict, guns designed for war, or army guns, or military guns, or whatever stupid shit like that they come up with to call it. And what's funny, too, is now we contradict ourselves again, as while being against all these army guns or military-style guns for civilian possession or use, they also tout that the 1911 handgun is the only pistol platform that, that it's the best in the world. A lot of these guys, not all of them, but the 1911, if you don't have a 1911 steel on your hip, you're a retard, you don't know what you're doing, and all that stuff. It's like, okay, that's your personal preference, man. Like, good for you, but shut up. And just to kind of sum it up, just, too long, didn't listen. These people are generally, they've got a couple characteristics. They're clueless, arrogant, very judgmental, and usually older, but that is not a requirement. Even though I've seen personally and experienced personally more older people that are like this. I also experienced a decent amount of younger people, which means that this behavior and this kind of attitude and this state of being is not really going anywhere anytime soon, which sucks, but it's fun for things like this, and we can all have a good laugh about it. So now we've got that sort of out of the way. Well, this series' goal is to expose experiences of myself, friends, and fellow YouTubers, viewers, and subscribers alike that have had experiences with these types of people, just for generally like a good laugh, and to let everyone know that you're not alone and kind of get some lessons on how to deal with these people, because it can be fun if you do it right. So this was commented on the first video by Kev, a YouTube viewer, and he calls it Seeing the Light. So at an Okeechobee, I don't know if I pronounced that right, but I gave it a shot. Shooting range, I overheard this guy flapping his gums saying rando, so random guy. I don't care for semi-automatic rifles anyway, so I don't really have a dog in that hunt, referring to like bans or restrictions. Besides, they aren't coming from my bolt-action rifle. Me being me. That's because they haven't figured out that you have a sniper rifle which shoots a caliber that can defeat most body armor, but they will. Rando, it's a hunting rifle, not a sniper rifle. Me, and this is a hunting rifle too, pointing to my AR. You see, it's all about semantics. One day it's a bolt action, the next day it's a scary rifle with a long barrel, a big scope, and shoots armor-piercing bullets. The day after that, your beloved Remington 700 becomes a sniper rifle. like the ones used by elite military units for long-range assassinations, and must be banned for the sake of the public safety. You see how this works? Random guy. Excuse me. I never thought of it that way. Me. Happy to clear that up for you. The guy behind the counter gave me that, look, and look that said, you destroyed that dude. Yep, I would say you destroyed him. You fucked him up with some truth. And also, a lot of these people just don't think about that shit because they're in this echo chamber of being an idiot. And, it doesn't affect me. It's, whatever. And it's like, it's problematic. Because, eventually they give them an inch, they take a mile. We've seen this with gun legislation, which is all unconstitutional. I don't care how you split that. That is my opinion on there. And that's also a very agreed upon opinion, even by people that don't like guns. They still go, yeah, it's pretty clear and defined what the Second Amendment means. And gun legislation is, in my opinion, all illegal and unconstitutional. But it's allowed to happen because of people like this that either support it, or don't oppose it. Because it doesn't affect them well yet. And then this guy, Kev, I'm really glad you stayed calm and you took the approach of actually trying to educate somebody and maybe just taking the chance. Because generally speaking, I'm actually really surprised at this guy's response. He said, I never thought of it that way, and he wasn't a prick about it. Because, you had him dead to rights just with a couple sentences and all that stuff, because that's how it works. You're absolutely correct. But the fact that he was able to kind of go, I thought you did what's called planting a seed. He didn't change his mind probably right there and then. But he probably started thinking about it and started talking about it with his other FUD friends. And then they're like, no, that's never going to happen. That's never going to happen. Well, we didn't think gun legislation was ever going to happen either. And then it did. So, it's very good that responsible firearm owners actually have the ability to talk like this and kind of remain calm, composed, and also very factual and easy to understand, relevant to the person you're talking to. You got to know your audience. And Kev, you definitely know your audience. So I appreciate you doing that, and I think I speak on behalf of most of the firearm owners that are actually care about the Second Amendment in the U.S., that this is a very good thing, and this is how you get people to understand these issues without shutting them down immediately and just creating more division and conflict. So that being said, that's a really cool story, and that's usually, we usually have the stories of FUDs and laugh at them, ha ha ha, but this is one that I thought was very important and relevant to bring up, at least on one video. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. I definitely like that story a lot, and I really appreciate you sharing that, because, again, that's a good thing. It's a positive thing. It's an experience. It started out with the typical, okay, whatever, and then you could have just gone, fuck it. I can't deal with this, which I usually do, and most other people I know do. But you chose to actually engage in a professional way and may have planted a seed that changed one or more minds about this issue. So, good job, Kev. I appreciate that. And then another short one was submitted by Nils, N-I-L-S. Minor FUD story. Met a guy at the range who insisted that the Germans used 11mm Mauser, aka 43 Mauser, ammo as their standard round during World War I. Yeah. There are people, and FUDs love to regurgitate bullshit about guns and bullshit about history, i.e. Tales of the Gun. Go watch that now as an adult. Very interesting. I grew up on this show. I grew up on it, and I loved it. It got me into these things, but then I learned quickly that the boomer FUDs that made that show have a lot of misinformation that they spewed out there that people still believe because they didn't actually check it to see if it was accurate. So this is an example of that. Because I'm sure what they heard probably 50, 60 years ago is that, unless this guy is like in his 20s, he probably heard that rear echelon units were issued like the 7184, very rears, like the Landsturm and Landwehr units, the really old guys that weren't necessarily fit for frontline service, even though they used them, or people who were medically unfit, but they could still pick up a gun and defend their town if need be. So they used a bunch of older, like late 19th century firearms in very, very reserved capacities. Yes, some did make it to the front. And everybody's always looking for that exception where will this happen here? It's like, I get that, but generally speaking, the main rifle of the Imperial German military and all the little nation states was the Gewehr 1898 Mauser rifle in 7.92 by 57 millimeter. And he probably heard that a while back, and then just over time, because you don't really talk about it, think about it, or actually fact check things, because you're not really necessarily interested in it until it becomes something where you're trying to make yourself look intelligent, which is most of the time with history. History is like the cool thing to know, and especially with older people, they think that I mean, I've had a lot of arguments with older people and they will not move. And I say, here, I'm just going to show you the absolute facts right here. Nope, you don't know what you're talking about. You're a youngster. You'll figure it out. I'm like, well, no, the facts are right here. Like this came out. You may not have seen that. Nope. And these people are like that too. But yeah, he also, Nils puts insisted in all caps. And I know exactly what you're talking about, which is what I just explained. And while it was used, it's like saying, I don't even know what to compare that to, but yeah, it's definitely not. It's like saying that the U.S. used the Craig Jorgensen rifle until the 1920s in some capacities, actually a little bit longer than that, and that was their main rifle up until World War II. Well, it's factually incorrect on a big scale, right? But technically, they were still there, and people can get confused. But some people, I'm sure, actually still think that Craig was used through World War II on frontline service, which probably not. Anyway. So yeah, I mean, even though these little short, sweet tidbits are short, this is very relevant to something like that. So yeah, fuddery is not just limited to firearms; it also boils over into history, which we will have to make a series on that. The history Fudd. Who knows? We're getting off on a tangent here. Anyway, this video's gone long enough. Thank you guys for submitting these comments and these stories, and allowing me to kind of talk about this. And again, Kev, good job, Nils. Sometimes people just cannot be convinced no matter how much you have evidence stating the contrary. So don't worry about that. You know how to handle that. Just, okay, whatever. I usually just say, okay, and then walk away or just end the conversation there because it's like, well, you're not willing to really see the truth here. You're just thinking that you're right, and it's a lot easier to just think you're right and than to be told that you're incorrect and then have to maybe change your opinion on it based on facts. Jesus, I'm really long-winded. Anyway, thank you guys for commenting. If you want to submit a story, you can either do that in the comments on these videos, or if you can send me a message to my Mike B YouTube page on Facebook. Just look at Mike B. You'll know it's me. It's got a helmet or something on there. And try not to make shit up just to be edgy or funny. Like I'll be able to tell if you're making things up and trying to be funny. Just tell what happened and don't make things up again. Like just make sure it's a true story. And because I had last year on the Range Ninjas thing, I had some blatantly made up stuff and it got annoying just over and over again. People, like, I'm not going to read your story if it's just trying to be funny and it's not actually true and nothing can be learned from it. So there we go. I got that out of the way. I have to say that because, again, people doesn't click with them. So yeah, and then also I'd like to thank the sponsors of these videos and this video too, my Patreon supporters and channel members. So you guys have been awesome the past couple of years. They've allowed me to do a lot of really cool content that I wouldn't be able to do just funding out of pocket. Devin K and I did some really expensive and cool ballistic tests we've always wanted to do this year, thanks to Patreon support. If you like the history part of my my YouTube channel, I now have a basic World War I French Horizon Blue uniform. It's reproduction, but it's very close to the original, so I can teach people about that aspect of the First World War. Things like that, different helmets, different firearms, different props to teach history with, because I love teaching about things that I love, which is historical artifacts and tangible history and all that stuff. Anyway, so $5 a month or more on either method of support gets into my Discord server, which is really fun. There's a lot of people on there. And we have a lot of cool conversations. There's some shit posting that goes on, but for the most part, it's just information exchange. Hey, I just got this today. I post sneak peeks about things. I ask for video ideas from them and all that stuff. So that's a pretty cool thing. And if you want to support me, but you can't do it financially, I totally understand that. That's not a problem. You can like this video by giving it a thumbs up, hitting the subscribe button if you haven't already, and the notification bell, if that even does anything. Throw a comment down in the comment section with what you thought about the video, and also sharing this video out to people that either might get a kick out of it, just enjoy it, or maybe kind of fall into the category of somebody like this, and maybe you can plant a seed with this kind of story. Who knows? Again, long-winded, so they might not make it that long. But yeah, and if you're in the third category and you're like, nah, not really, I don't want to support you at all, we already have by watching, so I do appreciate that. So thank you, everyone, for watching this video and all my other videos and into the future. And we'll see you on the next episode of Tales of the Fudd.